That's me. And that's my mom and dad, Maggie and Ernie Thompson, who were obviously an interracial couple and civil rights activists. You would think that courageous, warm-hearted, loving people like Maggie and Ernie would have a fabulous daughter, perhaps Ruby Bridges. Remember the little girl who had to be escorted to school by 4 federal marshals? But instead they had me. It's a very embarrassing photo. But that's what I was, an extremely pouty teenager. Extremely. Because I thought being the daughter of an interracial couple in the 50s in the McCarthy era was not a treat. But this changed. My father became very ill some years before he died and was not able to finish his book by himself. He couldn't write, physically couldn't write because of a stroke. And so he asked me if I would help him finish it. And in order to do this, we sat together, and he told me stories. And the stories were amazing. This was in 1970, which you may remember was the year that we all burned our bras. And then we went and bought new ones. So the story that I loved best was of my father's work with, his union was the United Electrical, Radio, and Machine Workers of America. He was the first paid black organizer for that union. And he became the head of their fair employment practices and fought for equal opportunity and equal wages for people of color and for women. And he ran 3 national conferences for women. And this was just amazing, touching work. He is one of 3 men honored in this incredibly spectacular mural, which is in the UE headquarters in Erie, Pennsylvania. And you can read that it says, "The history of our country shows that the fight of women is closely bound to the fight of the Negro people." I often, in talking about urban renewal, use this timeline because I think it's important to make the point that between emancipation and now, a lot of things happened. We didn't go from slavery to today. But in thinking about, you see this timeline starts in 1619. In thinking about it, one of the things that hit me one day was, wait, 2019 is 400 years. Actually, because I'm not very good in math, I need to go hang out with that STEM lady. I said, 2019 is going to be 500 years. But it's only 400 years. I said, is that long enough? Can we have an anniversary observation? Because it's long enough. But remembering my dad's lesson, I had the idea that we should make a timeline of multiple histories. I've been able to teach a class for the past 2 years at the New School called 400 Years of Inequality. And our class worked on, this is our class project, making this timeline of women's history, African American history, Native American history, and working people's history. And when you zoom in, you find incredible things. That they were bringing the Africans over to Jamestown to work on plantations, but they had taken the land from the Powhatan Indians. So there were all these wars going on. In 1619, not only is there a ship of Africans, there's a ship of women who are sold into indentured servitude. And we find out that part of the problem as this went along was that slavery was so unnatural and indentured servitude was so unnatural that the servants and the slaves got together and they had a rebellion, Bacon's Rebellion. This so frightened the oligarchy in Virginia that they invented white privilege. They said to the indentured servants, okay, we'll punish you lightly, but the slaves, we're going to punish them heavily. That's because you're better than they are. And so they invented whiteness to divide us. And this became truly encoded in our foundation documents. And much as we love our Declaration of Independence, it says all men are created equal. Right? You feel me? And much as we love our Constitution, it said that not only would there be slaves, but slaves would be counted as 3/5 of a person. And so we have been embedded in that situation. Winston Churchill famously said, "We make our buildings, and then they make us." And the same is true of our social system. We made a social system of inequality, and that has made our nation. And it has given us an ecology of inequality. And the crucial thing about an ecosystem is that we're all in it. You can't escape it. Do you know that ecologists' poster, "There is no planet B"? There's no planet B. What we make here is what we live in. So the question arises, as we think about 2019, how do we have an anniversary celebration that really helps us think about this ecology of inequality? Because I believe this is the great product of slavery. It didn't only happen to African Americans. It created the idea that one person could be better than another person because of something like gender or religion or sexual orientation or skin color. And so, therefore, we still think that one person can be better than another person. That's the ecology of inequality. How do we have an anniversary that says we all live in this ecology of inequality, and how do we have a party that helps us get out of it? I'm a psychiatrist, and I like to think, I'm a social psychiatrist, that my thing is good parties. So I want to tell you 5 habits of highly effective people's parties. First, we have to acknowledge everyone's suffering, and that means including your own. People like to say, "Oh, I'm so sorry for them." And I want to tell you, there's no us and there's no them. There's only we're all together. And there's no there and there's no here. It's just planet A, the only one we have. Second, you have to find the stories. You have to locate yourself in this history. One of the things that's fun, because the timeline is up in my office, is to watch people come in and they look at it and first they go, "Wow," and then they find themselves. They say, "Oh yeah, I remember that year. I know that picture." You have to invite everyone to be on the committee for your party. By the way, did I forget to say I expect you all to have a party? Okay. So you have to invite everybody to be on your committee, but most importantly, you have to have teenagers come and be on your committee. And we all know why that is, because they sit at this intersection between youth and adulthood, and they're also the people who actually live in the neighborhood. We go to work, the babies are in childcare, but the teenagers actually live in the neighborhood. They take public transportation, they hang out with each other. They know things none of the rest of us know, and so they have to be on the committee. Don't be afraid to name the problems. 2019 will catch the public eye. It can't help but have some attention. But in these kinds of things, politicians and bureaucrats want to tell you the tidied up story. But this is not a tidied up story. The Haymarket martyrs, the women's suffragettes who starved themselves to death for the right to vote, the Italian shoemakers who had to find a way, the Irish where people said, "No dogs and no Irish, welcome here." These are not pretty stories. But these are the stories of our country. These are the stories of this anniversary. Finally, as you take this time to remember, also think forward and think, what are you for? If we were in an ecology of inequality, what do you think an ecology of equality would look like? What would you like to see? What are you promoting? I have that same ringtone, but it's not me. Has that happened to you? It's happened to me. Giving a big speech and my phone goes off in my bag. Superpowers. So now we come to the superpower part. Superpower I want to talk about today is sense of place. Everybody has this. And we all know what inequality feels like as we move around in the world. When my book Root Shock came out, I went on a big tour, and every place I went, people said, "Come see our city." And they showed me what inequality looked like. where the wealthy neighborhoods were, where the wealthy institutions were, and where the disinvestment was, where the closed factories were, what had been abandoned and who lived there, and then what they were trying to do to bring the pieces together. That's an incredible superpower. And so I had the honor being in St. Louis a month ago, and activists there took me to see this extraordinary bit of geography in that city, the Delmar Divide. 1 block to the north is devastation. In the map, see where it's all green? That's not a park. That's city neighborhood that burned down because of devastation and disinvestment. To the south, it's prosperous and rich, and people are having brunch. It's terrifying. But what if we think about this timeline, we come to this moment, and the Delmar Boulevard is closed to traffic, and along its entire length, we set up picnic tables, and we invite the whole region, or not we, because we might not live there, but they invite the whole region to come and have a potluck, coming together across the Delmar Divide. As a psychiatrist, what I see is that when we move in ways that we are forbidden by the ecology of inequality, we start to create new possibilities. This is how we rupture what we're stuck in. And thus, we can use this potluck, or whatever you invent in your city, in your school, in your neighborhood, in your church, in your museum, whatever you invent, for an occasion of healing and envisioning a different future in which all people are created and live as equals. Thank you.